You're tuned to Nobidade TV, a Cape Verdean production.
Gente, passamos no dentro do programa Cozinha, então começa com comida, para onde estar com fome, nem tem fome, então você está com ali. Então começa com comida, depois te dá uns tempos, então começa com o programa. Just wanted to say that we are going to switch the program a little bit and start with food. So we can have, you can go in and get your food, it's buffet style, and then we will give it some time to start the program. So, da pediba, se o senhor padre também dá uma benção para aquela alimentação que nós também tomamos hoje. Então, salve de palmas para nós, Padre Simão, de Imaculado Coração de Maria, que também dá uma benção para uma criança, não está comer e depois não está continuar com o programa. Obrigado.
Gentes no reza no canta, pamo Senhor desta no meio de nós. Gentes no canta, no louva Deus. No te louva Deus. Para esse momento de estar ali junto, para esse convívio fraterno, no te louva Deus, para a comida que está ali disponível para nós, que abençoando Ele, para que não pode comer, para restaurar a nossa força, para dar-nos saúde, para dar-nos força, para dar músculo, para engorda quem é que está magro, para fortalecer quem é que está gordo, para não poder trabalhar melhor para o progresso da humanidade e também para servir. Em nome do Pai, do Filho e do Espírito Santo. Amém. Para quem é que tem apetite, não te deseja bom apetite. Para quem é que já tem, bom proveito.
Quem tem medo, pode levantar, para servir comida. Depois então começa o programa de língua local. Muito obrigado para todos alguém que está ali. Bem-vindos à angariação de fundos de Project LCV.
Inspiração de meus poetas, princesa por serenata, na noite serena de luz, debaixo de janela do cantinho, na jogadinha do final.
Bem-vindos à angariação de fundos de Project LCV. Salve de palmas para toda alguém que está ali hoje. Round of applause for everyone who's here today. Thank you for being here. I was not born in Cape Verde. I was born in the United States. I was privileged to go to Cape Verde for the first time when I was 5 years old. And pretty much every year after that, I used to spend the summers with my grandparents. And I fell in love with the culture, with the people, and how welcoming the Cape Verdean community was in Cabo Verde. One thing I did notice though was the disparity and the differences between my life and the life of the people there. Although they were very happy and they welcomed me to their home no matter what, there was a disparity, and that's where really showed me my passion and continuing the work that I do with the health activism here in Pawtucket and Central Falls, but also for Cabo Verde. Project LCV was established in 2009 by a group of selfless visionaries. I would like for all the founders of Project LCV to please stand up. Stand up. Stand up. All of the people who were there on the first night of the mission. Give them a round of applause because they are the ones who set the foundation. Quando troca o crioulo faz. A minha irmã é privilegiada de vai Cabo Verde pela primeira vez por 5 anos. Minha nasci na América, mas vai Cabo Verde pela primeira vez por 5 anos. E a minha adora Cabo Verde, vai durante depois dela, está passado o verão com minhas famílias, que lá na Cabo Verde. E tudo aquilo foi porque mora beleza, mas não é que disparidade de vida, que muita vida na nada, por viver vida lá na Cabo Verde. Então, que lá que, assim, que missão para mim, para continuar a trabalhar. Our ask today is very simple. We need your help to sustain our mission on the 3 islands that we've reached and to deploy new groups to different islands. And also, the Ministry of Health of Cabo Verde asked us to fundraise for a much-needed ambulance that is here. You can see the ambulance is on the table. I'm dressed in red for the ambulance effect. And we want to make sure that we can sustain and support Cape Verde and what the needs are that they are asking of us. Nosso pedido é simples. Nos pedir para o suporte e para sustentar a nossa missão de Cabo Verde, que nos já tiver na Brasília, que nos tem a visão de tiver na Amazônia, mas também o Ministério de Saúde de Cabo Verde pedindo para angariar fundos para uma ambulância para Cabo Verde. Eu costumo mandar uma ambulância para Fogo, então o Ministério de Cabo Verde tinha confiança em nós, mas não torna a chegar lá. Então nós apoia ou não? Ok. Família para o programa de hoje, uma pré-vinda com morna, nome de morna, tem morna que mas a própria, porque nós decimos que ele vinha, mas não se tratava que ele come. Essa foi na vida, tem hora para tudo, mas nem tem hora que não vai dar tudo na vida. Muita gente sempre falta emocional, falta material ou falta de saúde. E as coisas que mudam, e eu canto. Tem que estar cantando. I wanted to quote a famous morna of our language that says, there's a time for everything, but there's never a time that we have everything in life. We feel emotional gaps, we feel material gaps, and gaps in health. So my recommendation to everyone is let's come together and help each other because you never know when you might need the help. So to kick off our program, I would love to invite our keynote speaker, Olavo de Macedo, to the stage. Para começar nosso programa, eu vou trazer Olavo de Macedo para o palco para falar com nós. Muito obrigada, Olavo. Salve de palmas para Olavo de Macedo.
My name's Ollie DiMacedo. Obviously, I was born in Brava, Cape Verde, and then I came here when I was 7 years old. But I have very fond memories of Cape Verde. And actually, I want to just say one thing real quick. I'm kind of humbled here. I was sitting next to David Derman, and he took a 7-hour trip from Maryland to come here tonight. And you know, I came an hour away, and listen, I'm really blessed when people do things for people, especially David. You have no connection to Cape Verde. He told me he never knew that Cape Verde existed. But I'm always impressed when people give, especially people you know nothing about. There's something in you that makes you give, and I think that's really, really important. So to be really quick, I just want to say a couple quick things. I remember as a little boy in Cape Verde, and I was talking to Liz before the week. She explained to me how she sends these big carnic boxes filled with things to Cape Verde. And it brought memories back to me as a little child, 7 years old, being in Brava. And my grandmother used to send this 55-barrel, you know, filled with clothes and and sewing materials and buttons, and we were so excited that somebody from America was thinking about us, because we didn't grow up rich in Brava. We were very, very, very poor. But I remember that the important thing that America was always like a lifeline to us. And I remember as a little kid when I finally found out that we got our shamad, as they would call it back then, that we were going to come to the United States. Now, honest to God, like the little village in Cabo Verde, where I'm from, they were all excited because to me it was like I was going to heaven. I mean, we're going to America. It was a great thing. And I tell you, America's been great to us, great to my family. It's blessed me tremendously. And I've been able to be educated. I've gone to college. I have my businessman, I've done very, very well. But I've never forgotten, I'm from Brava. And the Cape Verde people are my people. Even though I don't look like it, but when I start dancing, you recognize that I'm from Brava. That's the truth. But I want to share one quick thing. When I got to America years later, they told me a story about an aunt of mine that was there, died when she was 4 years old in Brava. And she had died because she had intestinal worms, which is for those of you that from Brava and believe, you guys know what that is. And it was not a big deal. It wasn't a big, difficult thing that today we go to the doctor and resolve. But she died at the age of 4 because she ended up choking on worms that came out of her intestines. And it was so devastating. My mother was the oldest of the family. She was taking care of me because my grandmother was in the States at the time. And it broke them so hard because there was no doctors to go to. There was no clinic to attend. There was no one to give them health care. So my aunt Philomena, which I never ever got to meet, never made it because there was nobody like you guys doing what you're doing right now. So even though I thought about that, I said, wow, that's amazing. And I began to think, what I would say then when I came, and I was thinking about it. And I remember the story of the Good Samaritan in the Bible. And then in the story of the Good Samaritan, it's in Luke 10. It talks about when a lawyer came to Jesus and said, Jesus, how do I find eternal life? And Jesus says, love you God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. So he went on and said, well, who's my neighbor? So Jesus went on to tell him the story about the guy who was robbed, and he was beaten, and he was left to die on the side of the road. And the priest walked by and went to the other side of the road. Then the Levite came by, which is a priestly honor in Israel, and he walked to the other side of the road. Then the Samaritan came by, and the Samaritan not only took olive oil and put it on his wounds with wine, he put him on his little mule and he brought him to an inn. And he told the innkeeper, listen, you take care of this man. And when I come back, and if there's not enough money, when I come back, I will pay whatever it is to make this man healthy. And Jesus said to this lawyer, so who was the greatest that did that? He said, obviously the man. Which one of those men were the ones who were really serving the Lord? And he said, obviously the Samaritan was. And I got to tell you, so often we see people all the time, we walk by them, we don't know, and people like Elizabeth just said, in Japan, I remember as a little kid, my heart breaks for what goes on, man. I'm here tonight just to give you some money, to bless you, and to tell you, listen, it's a good thing that you're doing. And I tell you, and I do think of my Aunt Philomena, because I think if there was a group like you that were doing medical assistance to Brava way back in 1955 and 56, maybe my aunt would be living today looking at me and smiling and be proud of what I've done and what I've accomplished and what our family's been able to accomplish here in the United States. It's a really good thing. I wanted to end one thing with a quote that I just, sitting there, I was reading an email from a woman that works for me, and the bottom of her email had this statement, and I thought it was so fitting. It said, never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, the only thing that ever has, and that was by Margaret Mead. So I encourage you tonight, and the thing of it is, it's not how much money you have, it's the heart in which you give the money you have. Whether it's $1, $5, $10, $100,000. I raise money all the time in different things that I'm involved with in Plymouth, and I'm amazed, and I find that the people that have a lot of money have a different attitude how they give. I love the people that give me $50, $100, $20 for the cause in which we're fighting for together, because I know that they're doing it from their heart. that they're giving all they have and they don't really have anything. The last thing I want to share with you that I remember from Jabaraba, the Mora Baza, that was, my mother, we were poor, but every Wednesday in Jabaraba, the people that couldn't work or were crippled would come to our house and ask for a cup of coffee or whatever. And there was this guy named Penepanato, I'll never forget it, I was 6 years old, and he would come every Wednesday. My mother would always have a little cup of coffee and a bolasha, the hard bolasha for him. And I remember, I said to Mama, who's that? He said, he comes every week. He says, yeah. He said, Olivine, é tudo menino de Jesus. And I've never forgotten that. We are gods, all of us are the same. And my mother instilled that in me. And I want you to know, as much as you're going to have fun tonight, and you're going to enjoy it, the work, and you know, my brother Donald's been telling me about Ernestina, God bless you. And I know her heart to start this and to do for your people. And I hope that I can help in the future as well. And I hope we all can help. And take it seriously. Because there's someone that's just waiting for someone to come with medical care, and you can be saving their lives in so many ways. Do that. Be encouraged and continue the fight you're fighting. It's a good fight, and you'll be blessed by the good man up in heaven. So God bless you, and thank you for having me tonight.
Mais salve de palmas para Olavo de Macedo. Another round of applause for Olavo de Macedo. Next up, like Olavo said, drove 7 hours to get here today, but also was on the first ever medical mission for Project Health TV. Simo Olavo Fla, Dr. McDermott, ele guia 7 horas para estar ali hoje, mas ele vai naquele primeiro missão que Project Health TV vai nele. Ele é morologista, está também falando sobre historial e sua experiência com Project Health TV. Dr. McDermott went on the first ever medical mission with Project Health as a urologist, and today he's going to speak to you about his experience volunteering for the organization. Give it up for Dr. David McDermott.
Thank you, Liz. Again, my name is David McDermott. Thanks for having me tonight. And she'd asked me to kind of talk about PHCV, where it was and where it is now. And I'm kind of uniquely suited to do that because, as she said, I was on the first PHCV trip, and I was actually on the last one just this June. So I've done 5 trips total, but I've seen where it was and where it's going. So as far as where it started, it basically started in the halls of Beth Israel Deaconess Hospital, and it was in the resident clinic. So I was a urology resident there, and in resident clinic, you know, surgeons in training, you need to kind of practice by seeing patients, and you have a attending supervisor who kind of makes sure you're doing the right stuff. So our supervisor was Michael Kearney, who many of you know, and when I say Michael was our supervisor, I use the word supervisor very loosely. He was basically one of the kids. Oh, there we go. And my first contact with anything Cape Verdean was Luis DaCosta. He walked up in pointy shoes and wearing kind of a cool hip outfit. I'm in my surgical scrubs, which are basically dirty pajamas. And he said, I'm Luis, and let's go talk to some patients. So we go in there and we start talking to some patients, and I realized very quickly, they're not speaking Spanish. I pull him aside afterwards and I said, what language were you speaking? And he said, Cape Verdean. And I said, oh, what's Cape Verdean? And he said, it's what we speak in Cabo Verde. I'm like, where is that? And so over the next 3 years, I became very familiar with Cape Verde and all the interpreters, Ernestina, Luis, Carla, and the gang. And then at some point during those years, the interpreters got together and decided to ask Michael, you know, maybe rather than having all the Cape Verdeans come here to Boston, let's go over there and treat them. And I was lucky enough to be on the first trip that did that. So on that first trip, you know, I fell in love with it. We went up to Asamada, did the nauseating ride from Praia all the way through the hills, and got to Hospital Santiago Norte, and we saw 100 patients the first day, lined up surgery, and we did stuff that I had never done before, like open kidney surgery for stones. Here in the United States, we use lasers for stones, and it's a simple outpatient procedure. We had to cut an 18-year-old wide open to get this kidney stone out, which is a little barbaric, but it's what they had at the time. One of my co-residents came with me, Robbie Packer, and we did the first transurethral prostate procedures there. In the United States, we use a scope and a video tower to do it, but Ravi had his head down on the guy's crotch, looking through the lens, trying to do this procedure. And I had to use spring water bottles that we duct taped irrigation fluid to. It was pretty primitive at that time. Flash forward 13 years, on the last trip, we've basically trained the Cape Verdean surgeons to do, modern urology. They've got their own lasers through donations through PHCV. They're now doing all these transurethral procedures with with video towers, with cameras, and they're light years ahead of where they were 13 years ago, in large part due to PHCV. And our goal has always been not to just go over there and treat the Cape Verdean patients, but to treat, to basically instruct the surgeons there to help their own population. So they've done that and they're doing wonderfully. We're still pushing the boundaries. Mike Sweeney and I, who were on the last trip, did the first laparoscopic kidney surgeries, removing kidneys through small incisions for cancer and horrible infections. So that had never been done in the country before. And so we're still pushing the boundaries. So the whole genesis of this was just a conversation among the interpreters, asking Dr. Kearney, hey, maybe we'll get a group together and go to Cape Verde. And now 19 trips later, we couldn't have imagined that something like this would have happened, and all of these thousands of patients have been treated and hundreds of surgeries. It really is incredible what a simple request and a simple yes can do. So I'm really proud to be a part of it. If you told me back 13 years ago that I'd have my passport stamped more by Cape Verde than any other country, I wouldn't believe you, because I didn't know it existed at that point, but it's such a big part of my life now, and my 16-year-old daughter has already been on 2 trips with me, and we both hope to go back many more times. So thank you very much, I really appreciate it.
Obrigado. Cima, Dr. McDermott Flynn se prepara para nós 20ª missão para Cabo Verde. Então, nós estamos super contentes para todo o apoio que nos recebe e todo o trabalho que nos está continuando a fazer. Então, gosto de nos também ouvir um pouco da de Cabo Verde. José Andrade vem lá de Cabo Verde para falar com nós sobre aquele programa que nos teve na Brava e aquela parceria que nos teve com Brava sustentável. Give it up for José Andrade. I have José Andrade is here from Cabo Verde to share his experience with Project Health and our work in Brava. Salva de palmas para José Andrade.
Boa noite a todos. Hoje me quis servir de ponto de Brava e Merda. Trazer-nos uma grande salvação de toda a gente de Brava, que está desde aquele primeiro viagem que o projeto decidiu fazer para Brava, não guarda uma lembrança que pode ser melhor. E desde aquele tempo, com este viagem a fazer o terceiro viagem, se preparado para Brava, e desde aquele tempo a gente se despera e tudo bem que a gente se encontra com isso, perguntando quando fiz médico também. Fiz médico que vai esmarcar Brava, não somente para trabalho e serviços que se quis fazer, mas também para seus comportamentos, seus morabeza e esse momento inesquecível que não passa na Brava. E eu encontro ali na marca o projeto de intercivil foi para mim um dos melhores encontros que tinha ali. Fora minha mulher, naturalmente. Mas desde tudo aquele trabalho que foi feito, já fazem várias vezes que o projeto de civil mandamos, acho que parece 4 contentores que já vai para Brava, que hoje não tem hospital de Brava equipado com materiais que da Fran nunca tem nada de cobiça, mesmo o hospital principal de praia, porque equipamento que está na Brava nunca tem, não tem um grande agradecimento de franhões e todo que está aí. E é uma ligação que está continuando, não te espera como de não está bem longe, e também sobre isso se convida nós e tudo que está ali. Ponhamos para Brava, porque Brava é uma ilha de Morabeza, Brava de Eugênio Tavares, tu está Brava de Eugênio Tavares, mas, bom, nunca está fazendo tanto Brava de Eugênio Tavares, porque para mim é que Eugênio Tavares que fazia Brava, é Brava que fazia Eugênio Tavares. E que a Brava de Pedro, que quantias de gente sair bem para os Estados Unidos, que vem fazer suas vidas ali, e que teve a oportunidade de retornar, mas que trabalha e que faz aquele ilha o que ele está hoje. E o que se acontecer é que a ligação que não tem com meta se continua hoje não somente com imigrantes que estão ali, mas mesmo também com todos esses médicos que têm uma ligação com Brava, que se dá pessoas e toda disponibilidade para Brava, para ajudar. Então, esse também nos traz um grande agradecimento para todas as pessoas que estão com toda a devoção para Brava. E nos encontros que nos fazer na Brava, o projeto civil, primeira vez que está lá, cheio de saber de um menino que teve um grande problema, que teve uma grande queimadura, que nos trazer para os Estados Unidos. Aquele menino, se não trazer bem ele para os Estados Unidos, com certeza hoje que tinha vida massa. Então, através de Ernestina, que está ali presente e trabalho que ele fazia e todo que os outros médicos que dá apoio, que ajuda. E hoje aquele menino vem, está ali na América e até de fazer todo o necessário que este vive ali, este fica ali. E então, para nós foi uma grande vitória que aconteceu para Brava. E acho que o menino está ali. Como aqui em Franhosa, os meninos que vêm na América hoje, de certeza hoje que estão comigo. E graças a meus trabalhos, graças ao projeto civil, nos hoje um menino que não tem hoje e muito espera como um dia ele deve ser também um orgulho de Brava. Se nós temos um orgulho de trabalho que nós fazemos, o apoio e a ajuda de todos. Alice, no médico, está preparando, mas outro médico está bem para Brava. No sala tudo esperanhoso, o trabalho está tudo organizado, médico que está também cabo tudo preparado, e sonhoso que nos espera, embora seja. Há pouco ligaram com uma pessoa de Santa Fran, como Brava, é que é difícil, é um bocadinho difícil, mas se dificuldade, vocês trocam-se gente, toma-se tempo e dá disponibilidade e dá-se de trabalho para Brava. Brava é uma ilha que toda a gente que vai lá fica encantado. Nas montanhas é cheio de segredos e de lembrança e tudo o que que retorna, mas é graças a eles também que Brava está hoje o que ele está e nos espera e nos continua tudo por um continuo no caminho que nos trabalha e no trabalho que nos fazer para poder vencer muito mais melhor do que ele está. Antes de terminar, se torna-nos uma salvação de Brava e até a próxima volta nos tornamos a encontrar com mais possibilidades e mais coisas aí fazer para cá. Muito obrigado a todos e até outra volta.